How about this, before we move on, because I'd like to do this several times so you get the good feel for it. But we have that technical part, so let's just make sure that everybody is good with that. Let's open it up to questions, but let's just keep it about like this process that we're doing.
Just questions or shares too?
Yeah, you could do shares as well. Yes, yes.
I have a question. With the shoot through your navel, you shoot to the back and then there's like a fountain that comes around?
Yeah, like so Heidi was saying, like you shoot it from your navel to the back and then like a fountain that kind of squirts around the sides. Yeah, you could, yeah, however your visualization works. The way I was taught is they would say float it around, like, but it's like when you're coming from your navel and you're shooting it to the backside, you're not just moving it kind of slowly, you're kind of going like you're moving it kind of fast. And then you sit with it for a minute and then you just, it doesn't matter the pace there, like you just kind of like Heidi said, like a fountain, like squirting it around the side. Doesn't have to be fast. The one from the navel to the back, best to do it kind of quick, where you just go, ugh. But after that, you can just float it around. But let's make sure if somebody else has questions or wanted to do a share.
When you say low back, do you mean Meng Meng?
Yeah, Ming Minish area. Yeah.
Thank you.
And go ahead, Barbara.
Hey, Miss Barbara.
Hey, just a quick share because I've already had an amazing insight here.
Good, very good.
Related to the situation, and I had a dream recently related to this, and someone appeared, and the theme was forgiveness, and I thought they were asking for my forgiveness, and now it's totally clear to me that they want me to forgive this other person.
Oh,
Just amazing. Thank you.
yeah, that's interesting.
Insight also that came up with this
Mhm.
from the other one, which is not just with that woman who was angry with me, who was kicking the tire, but dropping or letting go of all the drama of what I make meaning or project onto others.
Mhm.
That just like is a step of how to do that.
Oh, so boy, that was a big insight. So she was saying that, she had the insight a little while ago about the person kicking the tires of like a car that they're mad at, in the situation. So she was felt like she was being removed from it. And now she said, like, how did you say it again? Like,
Just like apply that everywhere else.
Right,
is
like-
where I make my own drama by attaching meaning to things.
right.
And just seeing that and
Right.
being able to drop it.
So she was saying that like she has a realization that in different situations she has projections or apply some meaning to something when it was not really what was happening or accurate, and it causes like her own little drama, like we all do it, right? And so to be able to recognize it is huge. And so yeah, I mean, sometimes the meanings, might be just you get caught up in the moment or it's justifying something. But sometimes it's even a byproduct of another situation that you're trying to make sense out of, but you're using the situation now, and it doesn't matter why. It's just that it's happening. And so,
Well, it's like a lot of times I just like if I don't feel respected by somebody, I
Mhm.
feel dissed,
Mhm.
then I just am burned and
Mhm.
totally in reaction internally about it. And then when I do this work, I could see that, maybe they did some behaviors that weren't respectful, but I don't have to attach that meaning to it.
Right,
It's not-
right. So she was saying, like sometimes, with the kind of work that she does, like if somebody wasn't being kind of respectful, um that she would feel burned. And now it makes it like, you know, yeah, they maybe have behaviors that they're saying, but it doesn't have to be personalized, you know. And people say weird things, obnoxious things, or things that are just not thought out like all the time. And they usually don't mean anything, usually, not every time, but you know, they just are not paying attention, or they're not thinking about you, or they're just have a different opinion or whatever. And um anyway, we could go on and on about that one. That's kind of a big one.
All right, two more clarifying questions.
Mhm.
Do we let awareness linger on the sides of the body before getting to the navel? And
You
or at the same time as awareness on the navel?
wait, the last part again.
Do we let awareness linger on the sides of the body before we get to the navel? And or at the same time as awareness on the navel?
I think I like so you can move the energy kind of fast. I usually let it linger a little bit. Like I kind of let it start floating around and I kind of go real slow. I don't know. It feels like it makes it a bit stronger, not massively, but a bit. And then when you get around to the front, that's when you put your awareness on the navel and just hold it there. Yeah.
And then a second clarifying question. We were shooting from the navel minor to the Meng Meng, then around the sides to the navel while inhaling.
Inhaling and exhaling is not super important here. Just shoot it back and then float it around and then awareness on the navel. Don't worry about like trying to do the breath or you know,
Do we do it just once, not several times?
do it once a cycle. Yeah. So what's happening there is when you take that energy from the navel and you shoot it back and then float it back around, it's like you're cooking the energy, like you're incubating the energy, and you're changing the dynamic, and you're making the energy a lot more fluid, right? A lot more fluid. So it makes it easier for things to flush out, and it makes it easier for things to integrate, right? And so even when you look at Kundalini, like and you're doing, say, a Kundalini meditation or whatever, the intellect and the level of discomfort's not the right word, but you know how like right as something's about to change, it feels a little weird and uncomfortable, like, or like when you meet a new person and you're interacting with them and it's like that weird awkward thing for a minute until you make a connection. Like that is happening in your body sometimes. It's a kind of threshold, right? And so a lot of times when we're circulating the energy in a meditation where we're manually moving the energy, part of what happens is we'll get to a spot and we'll start to feel uncomfortable kind of quickly. And so we move kind of fast, right? Like when we move it, we're moving it, but like you're supposed to be circulating Kundalini energy, you know, in whatever practice that you're doing, you down the front, up the back, or down the central channel, or you know, however you're doing it. Lord's Prayer pattern. But the issue is because of the pace, you're really moving the fumes of Kundalini and not really Kundalini. Like, you know, it's like there's a little fire and you're like going with the smoke, and then you go, I stuck my hand in fire, when really you just kind of moved a little smoke, right? That's kind of what happens. And so to do Kundalini proper, you have to go really slow, like really slow. Most people don't have the patience and their mind wanders because you have to stay focused the whole way, right? And so by going through and cooking the energy like this, it's like it changes your thresholds. It changes your threshold of moving energy from spot to spot, but it will also change like your pleasure threshold, your playing threshold, like thresholds. It changes your thresholds, right? So by going through and doing this, again, in theory, it allows you to take more light into the world and absorb more light from the different situations because you're breaking away from the fixation of negativity and you're breaking away from the things that like kind of trigger us. You know, it's like what Heidi was saying. Like, you know, we have these attachments of stories or pieces of information or the whys of what happened when really that stuff gets in the way of absorbing the light of the situation, right? Or emanating light to the situation. And so we're mechanically doing something that usually happens very fast, but we're slowing it down and we're going piece by piece by piece so that when you're not thinking about it, it's happening to a much higher degree because we've practiced the pieces. But that ability of being surrounded by light, only good comes to me, only good goes for me, is where we're mechanically stimulating this process, right? And so, yes, it's a form of protection, it's a form of transmutation, it's definitely a creative process, and it is literally like what healing is. You know, healing is the breaking down of something chaotic and moving it or filling it with light, you know, establishing order. However you want to say that in different words, but basically you're breaking down chaos and bringing order to something, right? So be it a disease, a psychological issue, your spiritual development, you're breaking down the primal parts of your physiology and you're spiritualizing them, which means you're generating a kind of order to something that is very, very chaotic because it's so primal, right? And so even if you don't understand any of what I just said, if you do the processes from today and tomorrow, you're doing everything that we're talking about. You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to have the intellectual, like, this is doing this. Because the intellect always feels like it needs to make something happen. When you're dealing with intuition, it's all about flows and processes, and you just align yourself and you ride the coattails of something or you ride the wave of something. You're not trying to make something happen. You're just trying to like ride a rhythm or a wave, right? So,
Go ahead, Teresa.
hey, Teresa.
Hey, Craig. I'm curious
Uh-huh.
around this process and just some awareness that came to me over the break.
Uh-huh.
And it's associated with maybe a disconnected part in my body. So old trauma and maybe like a rejection of a part of my body and a disconnect. Would this help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even more so, the last process that we do tomorrow,
Yeah.
would help even more. But it will still help.
Okay. The last process. So focus.
Yeah, basically doing the 3 brains down.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I did
you.
that the other night. I was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this like 10 times. I'm going to do it super, super involved and just take my time. Yeah, I made it to 4.
And
Like,
did you follow?
like I was like, I'm going to do the 3 brains down and I'm just going to see how deep and how good it makes me feel. Yeah, 4. And they're like, what was I doing? I think I need a nap. Yeah, I didn't even make it to 5. I didn't even make it halfway through. But that's the thing, like when you're dealing with something psychological, like there's a potential that it's agitating, upsetting, you're worked up, you have a story, like Heidi was saying, there might be some story or drama surrounding it. And so it still might be unresolved, it still might be ongoing, you know, the downward motion breaks up all of that, and it strengthens the connection between the mind and the body. And a lot of times when we are exaggerating a health issue, it's because the mind and the body aren't feeling so connected. They're operating almost independently. You know, they're not disconnected, but they just like, yeah, I don't know about the body's going, I don't know about the mind. I don't think it knows what it's doing. I'm going to do this instead. Right. And the body's like, or the mind's like, you know, if the body would only listen, you know, it's back and forth. So we can do that to ourselves and the body, but we can also do that in situations. Like we can create situations or create problems in situations because of the disconnect between the body and the mind. And so if you think about like some of the things where we go, okay, check in with the situation. How's it feel in your body? What about that situation? How does it feel in the body? What about this? How does it feel in the body? Part of what you're doing is, for one, you're stimulating intuitive intelligence, being able to observe the things in your body, but you're making a connection between the external situations in your mind, but also the mind and the body. Every time you come back to the body and you're observing it, you're connecting the mind-body connection, and it's like properly aligned. Like they're on the same page. The more and more you do it, the more it's on the same page. So you'll even start to realize like, I'm starting to have an odd thought in my head. You feel it in the body, and your body is like, don't do that. Like, you know, like start coughing, or starts like some old weird thing happens, and then you change your thought process and it goes away. It's like the body will tell you, don't do that. Like, stop it, knock it off. And it will even start to happen in the external situations. Because like I think I talked about this like about a month ago or something in one of the classes, is that sometimes when we have something good coming our way, or like a deeper spiritual experience, there's part of us that sometimes will cause a situation to not let it happen. Like we'll have that same mechanism, but it's like it's very unconscious, but there's still on some level some awareness that it's coming, and we'll do things to kind of sabotage it or don't allow it to come to fruition. And so this process that we go through, and we're going, okay, check out the external situation, feel it in your body. What about this? Feel it in your body. How about that situation? Feel it in the body. Good or bad? You're checking it out, you feel it in the body, and then you feel it in the spine, and then you keep doing those things. It unwinds those mechanisms of us to cause problems in our body, in the external situations, but also when the good things are coming our way, it keeps us from stopping it. Because like if there's part of you that doesn't feel good about it, or even more so, like you're not wanting to make changes in your life to accommodate some big new thing coming in, which I've been there a couple of times, and it sounds like that's ridiculous, but when you're in the middle of it, it can be very difficult. It's letting go of something good for something potentially that's going to be better. It sounds great on paper, but really super easy to let go of something that sucks. Something that has been working for you, and you go, okay, it's working for me. Let's just let it go. So something potentially better might come in. Your mind's like, that's just crazy talk. Like, that is ridiculous. Why would I do that? They give up something that is working, that I like, and sometimes when something new or bigger and better is coming our way, we kind of go into that mode. Why would I let go of this? Why would I let go of that? I can think of like very critical things that were really big improvements in my life. Every step of the way, I complained about it, like as it came in. Every step of the way. It's super embarrassing to admit. I can admit it. every step of the way. I kicked and screamed and complained every step of the way. You know, afterwards I was like, this is amazing, but on the way to it, I wish I could say that I was wise and had great insight, but no. Like, you know, my life improved without my participation. You know, it's like it just, you know, as I've gotten older, like I recognize it now. But when I was younger, left to my own devices, I'd be a miserable mess. Seriously,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know. Luckily, uh, I don't know. For me, when I was younger, when good things were happening, I've even said this after something's happened where I've like fallen or something, injured myself. It was always I would have some sort of accident right before something good would happen. And so now when something bad happens, I'll go, oh, great, something good is about to happen. It sucks that it has to be that way, but you know, now it doesn't happen like it used to, but it still happens sometimes, you know, just I know sabotage or need to punish oneself, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
We all have that potential, and sometimes it's either that we're not wanting to change or we don't think we're worthy or that it's just new and scary. Who knows what it is? I mean, it's usually not conscious. You know, it's very, very unconscious.
Yes, I can relate actually. So thank you for sharing very much.
Yeah.
And then there was one more question, logistical. Do we do this process 4 to 7 times for each issue we work on?
I would say yes, but you know, if you find relief otherwise, but usually I target one thing at a time. You know, you might do it a couple of times for one and then a couple of times for another, but usually when you're wanting to go deep on a particular thing, you know, here we're talking it through, but usually in about 15-20 minutes, you can go through 4 or 5 times. Yeah. So, okay, so we're gonna do this now without I think everybody's kind of got down what it is. And so I know it's a little technical and a little weird, but the more you do it, the easier it will get.